Ever feel like you're stuck in a loop? You can't seem to kick that one habit, whether it's endlessly scrolling on your phone, putting off a big project, or always reaching for junk food. We all have these cycles that feel kind of impossible to crack. Okay, let's get into it because the answer is buried deep inside your brain. And honestly, understanding it can change everything.
And look, if you've ever felt kind of bad about these things, just don't. It's not a moral failing, not at all. It's actually a biological trap. And the key to getting out of it is a tiny little chemical you've definitely heard of, but you've probably heard about it all wrong. And that chemical is dopamine.
So right off the bat, let's clear something up. Most of us think of dopamine as the pleasure molecule, right? Well, that's not really it. It's much more accurate to call it the motivation molecule. It's the juice that gets you to go after things, the things your brain thinks you need to survive. Seriously, without it, you wouldn't even have the drive to get off the couch.
And if you want a really stark example of this, check this out. There was this wild experiment. Scientists took rats and basically turned off their dopamine supply. Now, if you put food right in their mouths, they'd eat it, they'd seem to enjoy it, but if you moved that same piece of food just a few inches away, like a body's length away, the rat would literally starve to death. It just wouldn't move. That tells you everything you need to know. Dopamine isn't the feeling of pleasure, it's the drive to go get the thing that brings you pleasure.
Okay, so here's where it gets really fascinating. This is probably one of the most important findings in neuroscience in the last 75 years. And it's this. Pleasure and pain, they're processed in the exact same place in your brain. They're not separate things, they're two sides of the same coin. Think of it like a seesaw or a balance scale.
Yeah, let's really lean into that balance scale idea. Just picture it. Deep inside your brain, there's this scale, and its number one job, its only job really, is to stay perfectly level. That's a state called homeostasis. And trust me, your brain will do anything to keep that scale balanced.
All right, so here's how it plays out in real time. Step 1, you do something that feels good, right? You eat a piece of chocolate cake, you scroll through social media, bam, the scale tips way over to the pleasure side. But your brain immediately goes, whoa, nope, can't have that. So to bring things back to level, it sends out these little imaginary gremlins. That's an analogy from neuroscientist Dr. Lembke. And they jump on the pain side of the scale. But here's the kicker. They're not very precise. They always overdo it. They jump on with a little too much force, and for a moment, the scale actually tips over into a state of pain.
And that overshoot, you know exactly what that feels like. It's the hangover after a fun night, it's the sugar crash after a donut, it's that antsy feeling when an episode ends and you just need to watch one more. That craving, that come down, that is your gremlins overcorrecting. It's the biological price tag for pleasure.
So, okay, that's what happens one time. But what happens when we do it again and again and again? What happens when we keep slamming that pleasure side of the scale day after day? Well, that's when things start to get a little more permanent.
See, when you're constantly hitting your brain with these huge dopamine spikes, the gremlins don't just visit anymore. They move in. They bring their little gremlin sleeping bags and they set up a permanent camp on the pain side of your scale. And what this does is it fundamentally changes your baseline. Level isn't level anymore. Your new normal, your default state, is a scale that's already tipped towards pain, towards anxiety, towards craving.
And this isn't just some cute analogy, by the way. We can actually see this in brain scans. You look at a healthy brain, it's got a nice, strong dopamine signal. But then you look at the brain of someone struggling with addiction even after 2 weeks of being sober, and their dopamine transmission is just tanked. It's way, way lower. They're walking around in what's called a chronic dopamine deficit state. They're not even trying to get high anymore. They're just trying to get back to zero, just to feel normal.
And listen, this isn't just about drugs or alcohol, not by a long shot. Dr. Lembke, the neuroscientist we mentioned, she tells this story about how she got addicted to, wait for it, romance novels. Yeah, it started out as a little escape, but pretty soon she needed more and more intense books just to get that same feeling. It just goes to show you a behavior, scrolling, shopping, whatever, can hijack this system just as powerfully as any substance.
So this changes everything about how we should think about addiction, right? Someone who's addicted isn't weak and they're not trying to self-destruct. They're in a state of intense biological pain and they're just trying to fix it. They're trying to get their scale back to level. It's a survival mechanism that's gone haywire.
All right, so that's the trap. It sounds kind of bleak, I know, but here's the really, really good news. You are not stuck there. Your brain can change. There are absolutely ways to get those gremlins to pack their bags and hit the road, so your scale can finally get back to a true level balance.
So what's the first step? It's something called a dopamine fast, and the magic number is 30 days. For 1 month, you completely cut out whatever that thing is for you. Now, I'm not going to lie, the first 2 weeks, they're going to be rough. That's withdrawal. The gremlins will be screaming. But if you can push through that, that's when the magic happens. Your brain's pathways literally start to reset, and that scale begins to slowly find its way back to level.
And after that, fast, the long-term game is all about changing how you get your dopamine. Think about it. There are 2 paths. There's the easy way, junk food, social media. You get this huge instant spike followed by that awful crash. It's a recipe for addiction. But then there's the hard way. Things like exercise or a cold shower or finishing a really tough project. With these, you actually pay the price up front. You're basically stepping on the pain side of the scale first. And how does your brain respond? By rewarding you with a slow, steady, and sustained rise in dopamine that doesn't come with a crash. It builds resilience.
So you see, we can absolutely get back in the driver's seat. Once you understand this pleasure-pain balance, you stop being a puppet to your own biology. You can start making real, intentional choices. Instead of always chasing that next easy hit, you can choose to embrace things that are a little bit hard, knowing that the real, lasting reward is on the other side. So I'll leave you with this question. What's one hard thing you could do today to start rebalancing your scales?